welcome. This is Scotty, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about data types and variables. Now, before we discuss data types, I first want to discuss values. Now, values are specific pieces of data that a program can use to store, display, to manipulate. On the screen, we have 3 console logs. Now, if you remember from the last video, the console logs essentially just print a value down to our terminal here. Now, the values are Alex, 25, and true. In JavaScript, each value is required to have a data type. Now, a data type just defines what we can do or what the program can do with that value. Each data type has different types of operations and cool things that you can use it for. So the first data type I want to talk about is a primitive data type. Now, there are 7 primitive data types in JavaScript. I only want to focus on the 3 main ones that you see all the time in programming. The first is on line 4. We have the value Alex, and its data type is a string. Now, strings are useful for storing names, like first names, last names, or emails. Anything that has to do with text is great for a string. You can see a string, or you can create a string by having text inside of quotation marks. They can be single quotation marks or double quotation marks. We just need text inside of them. The second data type is a number. So we have this value of 25, and it has a data type of a number. Now, numbers are used whenever you want to use mathematics. Numbers are also useful if you want to keep track of someone's score or age in a game. And the last value here is true, and its data type is a boolean. Now, booleans are very useful when you use conditional blocks, and I'll be discussing conditional blocks in later videos. A boolean can only be true or false. A number can be a whole number, it can be a decimal, or it can also be negative. And a string can just use text. I'm going to go ahead and print these values to the screen just so you can see how the program runs. And we have Alex, 25, and true printed to the screen. Now, I have hard-coded these values into these console logs, and that is not the best case when we develop or we create a program. We actually want to store these values into something called a variable. Now, a variable is defined as a named container that stores a value. I'm going to hop into this example JavaScript file, and on the screen, we have 3 variables. And each variable is storing a value with a specific type. So we have a variable email, a variable age, and a variable is logged in. Now, variables are created with 3 essential pieces. We have a keyword, const. Now, this const is not something that I created. This is something that is provided by the JavaScript. And this essentially is a binding for our variable. And this binding makes our variable immutable. Now, this means that when the program executes, it cannot change the value that we have passed into it. We have our named variable. This name is given by the developer. It's something that we create. In this case, I've assigned it, or I've called it email. We could call it user email or anything that you want to call it. You just want to be careful that the name of the variable doesn't stray too far from the value that you're assigning to it. Next, we have an equal sign. And this equal sign is essentially just an assignment operator, and it assigns the value that we're passing it. Lastly, we have our value. And if you could recall just from a couple seconds ago, this value is a string, and it is storing jennifer@gmail.com. So jennifer@gmail.com is now being stored into email once we execute the program. The other 2 variables we have are age, 25, and we have is logged in as true. So if we can think of this as a very simple web application, we're taking these pieces of data, we're storing them, and then we're going to reuse them so that we can display to the user this information. Now, in order to use the variable, you can just call that variable like we have done down here in this console log. We have a console.log email, console.log age, and console.log is logged in. Now, what's great about variables is that they can be reused over and over again. So if we had 50 of these console logs, we could just reuse email, reuse age, and reuse is logged in if we wanted to access the value that exists on that variable. I'm going to go ahead and run the program so you can see what is printed to the screen. We have jennifer@gmail.com, 25, and true. So the main key takeaway I want you all to understand from this video is that values have a data type, and those values can be passed and assigned into variables, and those variables can be used throughout your program. Hope that helps, friends. Keep learning, keep building.